Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Show me anything offensive in me, and lead me in the way everlasting.
There's a strong theme all the way through the Bible about people like us becoming lost. We get lost in so many different ways, don't we? Sometimes we just make a couple of wrong choices, and suddenly we find that we don't feel like we can ever really get back to who we were. Other times we find ourselves in a situation where we need to make a decision about something, and none of the options that we can take seem like they're a good decision. But we have to choose, one of them. Other times we just feel like we're alone, or we're far away from everything or everyone, even though there may be people all around us. In those times, people describe wanting to find a way back to God. And there are countless stories of people who go looking for God in the Bible, in our history books, and today all around the world. Maybe you're one of those people.
Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Show me anything offensive in me, and lead me in the way everlasting.
But the Bible doesn't just contain stories of people searching for God. There's another really strong theme going on all the way through both the Old and the New Testaments in the Bible. And it's that God is also searching for us. God's looking for us, searching us out right now, all across the world, in every culture, in every people group, every place that humanity places our feet. It's this gentle, loving, but persistent kind of searching. King David put it like this in one of his spiritual songs that he wrote. He said, there's nowhere I can go to hide from your spirit. I can never get away from your presence. If I go up to heaven, you're there. If I go down to the grave, you would be there. If I was to chase ahead of the light as the sun moves across the face of the earth in the morning, or if I was to go to the deepest, blackest trenches in the ocean, even there, I would find your hand stretched out to guide me home, and your strength there to put me back on my feet. I could say to all the darkness that surrounds me, go on then, cover me, hide me. I could say to all the light around me, let there be darkness. It would still be useless. Even the darkest darkness is just like midday with you, God. King David, who wrote that, is a very interesting character, especially how God prepared and chose him to be the king of Israel when he was still just a little child. It's a brilliant story because it's got just as much to say to us today as it did to him back then 3,000 years ago. At the time, Israel had had their first king, but he'd totally gone off the rails. He started off well, but he dive-bombed into this pit of jealousy, control, anger, power, spiritual depression. It wasn't pretty. So God's looking for a new king, and God knows what he's looking for. So the story goes like this. God sends his prophet Samuel off to a place called Bethlehem, where he meets David's dad, Jesse. And the whole thing's done in secret so that the crazy king won't find him and kill him. And Jesse wheels out all his sons and puts them in front of Samuel. And God says to Samuel, it's none of these. I mean, they all do look the part, and they're all great. But God sees past their outside, and David's not there. See, David's out in the fields, looking after some sheep. That part of the story really resonates with me. I mean, how many people do I know who feel like even if God was looking for them, they would be in the wrong place? Everyone seems to be in this queue for success, and this queue to be noticed or seen or given opportunity or accepted by God or wanted by God. Where are we? We're not even in the room. The people who should have put us there, they didn't even think that we deserved the place. Sometimes we don't think that we deserve to be there. So we've not even entered the space where we could be chosen or noticed. So some of us, we We literally stay away from the physical church buildings because we don't feel like not only would these church people not want us there, but in fact God wouldn't want us there either. But that's not what happens in this story, is it? David is miles away. Even his family don't consider him worth lining up to meet God's prophet. But God tells the prophet Samuel, these men are not the only choices. There's someone else. And his heart is what I'm looking for. Listen, God is searching for you. He's after you. He sees your heart. He sees that you're missing. And he is sending someone to you. You need to watch out for them. You need to notice them when they get to you. Perhaps it's someone you already know. So the next thing that happens in the story is that without question, David does come home. And Samuel instantly recognizes that he is the one God's been after. And he pours oil all over his head as a symbol of the presence of God being poured over David. And then Samuel just leaves. He just goes. So what I find interesting about this part of the story is that David he really isn't ready to be the king. In fact, David won't be the king for decades. Before he gets to become king, he's going to have to learn about serving in the king's palace and ministering to him with music. Before he's king, he's going to have to defeat Goliath, this giant in front of the rest of the Israelite army. Before he's king, he's going to have to be on the run for years while the previous crazy king tries to murder him. He's going to have to live in this network of caves and gather this unlikely rabble of outcasts to himself, known as his mighty fighting men. He's going to have to develop his ethos of care, compassion, action, integrity, bravery. He's going to write poems which will be turned into the worship library for the nation. So why does the prophet pour the oil over him straight away? Why does he anoint him for a job whilst he's still a child? And it's even more of a mystery when you read on in the story, because the mistakes that David's going to make as a king are quite big. Don't get me wrong, David is the best and most godly, good king that Israel's ever had, even to this day. The best leader, worshipper, prophet, priest, king. At the same time, he is going to have moments when he abuses his power. He's going to steal someone's wife, get her pregnant and send her husband to the front line to have him executed. He's going to sometimes neglect his duty. He's going to need to deal with his own pride. He's going to ignore God's command on purpose sometimes, and more. God knows about all of that, and he knows about his future, and still, when David turns up as a fresh-faced young shepherd poet, God covers him with the Holy Spirit, and he says, this is the one. So I guess that means that God's not looking for perfect people. He's not looking for some shiny winner or a finished product. He's looking for someone who'll give their heart to God. And if that's true about God choosing a king, how much more true is it going to be for normal, everyday people like us? Most of us are never going to be a king. I'm not going to be a king. But God is searching for us too. He knows the mistakes that we have made, the mistakes we're going to make. He knows the times we're going to mess it up and have messed it up, and the traps we've fallen into, and the ruins and rubble inside us. And yet I look back at my life and I find that God did seek me out. He was looking for me. He accepted me just as I was because he could see who I could be. Some people say he loves me as I am, but he loves me too much to let me stay that way. At the end of one of David's best-known psalms, he writes this: "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me, and know my anxious thoughts. Show me anything offensive, and lead me in the way everlasting." David knows that God doesn't only search for us to start with, but once he finds us, he continues this search for the real us, the hidden us, the us that he designed in the first place, the us who is buried under the rubble of bad attitudes, horrific experiences, our walls of anger and hurt and resentment and hatred and lust and unforgiveness. And God keeps on removing the rubble and the rubbish day after day after day. He reveals both to ourselves and the world around us the person that He actually created, the one He spent time weaving together, the one that He can see speaking powerful, life-giving words to others, the one that He can see doing the good that He has prepared in advance for us to do. He is searching to unearth and restore that person. So when He's looking for a king, what He's after is a person who will allow that process to happen, will let their walls down, expose this rubble, and say, God, shift it all, clean me up, lift the brokenness and the rubbish away from me, unearth my bad attitudes and bad practices and show them to me, remove them from me, resurrect me. That's about all of us, isn't it? It takes a brave person to say to the God of the universe, take me as I am, and I allow you to remold me how you know I should always have been. It takes trust and faith that God is good and that He only has good plans in store. But the more we trust in Him and let our walls down, the more He resurrects us with Him to abundant life. Our place that was rubble becomes a beautiful, fresh, nature-filled garden for us to walk and play in with God. So may you look for God and find God. May you feel God's gaze looking for you and allow yourself to be found by Him. And may you let your walls down. Give God access to every area to enable Him to bring you to His resurrection life.
Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Show me anything offensive in me, and lead me in the way everlasting.